Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Tour Talks. My name is Chris Trott and I work out on the PGA Tour for TaylorMade, servicing the game's greatest players. During these difficult times, obviously there's not much live sport, I've been taking the opportunity to catch up with some of our great athletes, and I'm joined by another one today. This guy is currently a member on the European Tour, 64th in the world, won the 2020 Omega Dubai Desert Classic in great style, which I'm sure we'll get to. Lucas Herbert, welcome to Tour Talks.
Trotty, thanks for having me on, mate.
How you been keeping, buddy?
Yeah, not too bad. I've actually sort of left the golf clubs alone for a little while, which has been nice. Had a little break. But yeah, just been enjoying life at home, living kind of a normal life, I think. It's been a long time since I've spent 2 months straight at home, which is quite odd. So yeah, just getting used to that. It's been strange, but it's been nice as well.
So the run-in to going on this forced break, you were in a rich vein of form, a super rich vein of form, and I've been super close to seeing this build to what it became with your win in Dubai. I mean, how have you even come down off the whirlwind of winning such an iconic tournament on the European Tour yet?
I don't know that I have, to be honest. It's it's a pretty cool event to sort of say to have as your first win. Obviously, that trophy is something special. It's so big, and the names that are on it are just as big as well. Obviously, Tiger went in there, and Rory won his first event there as well. So it's a really nice one to be able to say is my first win. And yeah, I'm probably still riding the coattails of it a little bit, and I might keep doing that for a little longer, I think.
I think it's well deserved. I mean, when you look at it though, and you're an upbeat guy, I know that, and you're your own man, which we're going to get to, and I think it's awesome, big lessons to be learned there. But when you have all that form and all that momentum, because I don't want to say that you were in a dip, but you were trying to find the what worked for you. So when you have all that form, how does it feel like the rest of us that you've had to go on this break? How are you planning to get yourself back to form as the tour starts to take shape again?
It's actually, I'm actually not too stressed about it, to be honest. I went through a bit of a dip last year, and I basically, as soon as I got my card locked up for Europe for this year, at the end of last year, so I finished 14th in the French Open, which was sort of enough to do it. I basically flew home and wanted to be at home until I felt like I wanted to play a golf tournament again. That was kind of the position I'd got to, and I was really fed up with everything, with just the travel and not playing well, and just the relationship around me was sort of breaking down a little bit. So I was ready for a break, and I didn't kind of want to go, yeah, I'll have 4 weeks off. I just went, I'm going to go home until I really want to play a golf tournament again. So I had a really long break from, I think the French Open was like maybe first week of October, and I played the 2 Australian events at the end of the year. But other than that, that was the last event I played for 2019. So I'd had a long break already, and I sort of then had to go through the process of getting myself ready to go and play Abu Dhabi and Dubai. And obviously, I've done that quite well because I've gone and had a win there second week out. So for me, I'm sort of sitting here thinking, well, I've just had a really long break and then had to do the preparation to get ready for another event, and I did it really well. So there's no reason why I can't go and do that again.
Yeah. It's amazing. One of the things that you always do is you're always very upbeat. You always pull a lot of positives out of it. You mentioned Australia, you mentioned playing a couple of events there. And I want to take things back to Australia and to playing on successful teams as an amateur, Eisenhower trophies, playoff losses as an amateur on PGA Australia events. Australia's been very good to you in terms of the development for you, and you stayed there for a while before you came out, and you actually played your way onto the European Tour. Tell us a bit about that decision and that journey that took you to get your card, because very few people, for people listening, play their way onto the tour like you did. It's not an easy feat. And do you think that staying in Australia helped you do that?
I think to a degree, we definitely had a good setup in Australia. We have, at the time, we had 4 events that were co-sanctioned with Europe. So we had the Australian PGA, the Perth World Super 6, the Fiji International, and then, we had 3, and then I finished 8th on the Order of Merit in Australia in 2017. So that was enough to get me a start into the Dunhill Links Championship in Europe. So that was going into that 2018 season. I had 4 starts off the virtue of playing in Australia. So that was obviously quite helpful. And yeah, it's a good tour. I mean, there's a lot of good players down there. Obviously, we just don't have the economy down here to support a tour like a European tour or a US tour. But there's still some good players down here playing. I mean, Michael Sim pretty much plays in, week out. And that guy's, I think he's still got the record for like one of the best Corn Ferry Tour seasons ever. And obviously we get pretty lucky at the end of the year with the big events. We do generally get, whether it be Adam Scott or Jason Day or Matt Jones or some of the Aussie guys that play the US tours, they come home and play. So although our events are they might be a little bit small, we do get some pretty good fields. And like for a young up and coming guy who's trying to learn his craft, definitely had the exposure to seeing some of the really good players and how they did it up close and personal. I mean, I played with Jason the weekend at the 2017 Australian Open, and that was amazing to see just how my game stacked up against his and what he did differently to me and maybe things that like I had a slight edge over him in, and that gave me a hell of a lot of confidence. So yeah, I went into 2018 into the season you were talking about where I played my way onto Europe. So I had those 4 starts already, and then I went to Singapore to play the Singapore Open, and I finished 8th, which got me a spot into the Open Championship. And I kind of had this little moment like a week later. I'd always wanted to go like Corn Ferry Tour or Canadian Tour and play my way into the US that way. And I kind of had this moment of like, well, I'm going to have 5 starts in Europe this year, no matter what. And I'm pretty sure like, you know, if I can play decent, I can get myself into some other events, you know, maybe with some management help, I can get some starts here and there. So yeah, I pretty much just said, right, David Rollo, my manager at IMG, I was like, right, Rolly, let's try and get as many starts as we can in Europe. I don't care where I play. Get me a start in the worst event if you like. I'll turn up and I'll do it properly. And I'll be like, I'll do more than everyone else. I'll travel and I'll stay away from home as long as I need to, and I'll get this thing done. And that's pretty much what we did. I went away for about 4 months through the middle of the year and was just like living week to week, sort of finding out. You know, I remember finding out like Monday morning that I had an invite to a tournament halfway around the world, and you've got to go and get flights, organize a caddy for the week, and do all the things that you've got to do to get ready for a tournament. And yeah, eventually on my 7th invite in Portugal, I finished 2nd, which was enough to get me my card for 2019. So yeah, managed to play my way on.
So there's a lot of things in there I want to touch on. Your first major, the Open Championship, was Carnoustie, right?
No, I played I actually Mondayed into the US Open that year. So Shinnecock was my first.
But the Open Championship, your first one was Carnoustie, correct?
Yes, sorry.
And so Shinnecock was where I'd obviously heard about you playing and coming through. Shinnecock was where I first met you. And it struck me, you had a high toe wedge, and we ground the back of that thing off to like you wouldn't believe. And you had your own way of approaching that subject and getting it done. And you had your team there, you had Dom, your coach there, you had this full crowd around you, and it was clear that you were doing things your way. What's the mindset around that? You mentioned doing it, traveling it, and I'll go wherever. But when it comes to getting wedges and getting clubs and setting them up so unique than anyone else, and you mentioned you played with Jason Day, was that something he said to you, or is it something that a club guy had said to you to say like, hey, if it works for you, do it that way? Is it a mentality you've always had?
I mean, specifically with the wedges, that like my knowledge literally went from 0 to 100 in like 6 months. I remember playing a tournament in Brisbane at this course that had really firm kind of surrounds to the greens, and I was just hitting a bunch of chip shots the whole week that I just couldn't get any sort of touch and feel with. And Dom was there, and he's sort of like, well, how much bounce you got on this thing? And I had like 10 degrees on it, and he's like, that's way too much. Let's go and take some off. I've gone and taken a little bit off, and I could feel a little bit of a difference, and that triggered some things in my mind. So then all of a sudden I went home and I was like, right, now I know this shot that I've been getting around the green, that might actually be from the golf club, not from me. So I went and found this shot and hit it. Yep, I'm getting that shot. Okay, went inside and just grinded this thing on the belt, and then came back out. Okay, that's a little bit better, but it still needs some more. Ground it down even more. Got it to a point where I'm like, yeah, I'm happy with that. For me personally, I hate being off firm turf and having one, just the club just bounces and the ball just flies and you just got no control over it. I wanted to get rid of that shot completely. I don't mind if I have to play off a soft lie with not enough bounce, because I think I'm talented enough to be able to land the club where I need it to. I just don't want the shot where I've got too much bounce. So that was kind of how that started. And then all of a sudden, you get exposed to guys like yourself or Sam Day or Adrian Rietveld out there in Europe. And all of a sudden it's like, okay, like I'm trying to explain what I want with a wedge bounce. And then Sam starts making me like 5 or 6 different wedges of different bounces, different grind patterns, different, like all sorts of things like this. Like, which ones do you like? Which one? And obviously he's pretty switched on with, I know what I want through the ball. I like to play with an open face. I like to feel this through impact. So he takes that in and builds me something that he thinks I'm going to like. And that was kind of how that process went. So all of a sudden we get to Shinnecock and I'm like, okay, I know exactly what I need here. And I'm coming to you going like, yeah, I need you to grind this down like this, Trotty. And I guess with the team as well, you're talking about with that, like, obviously in Australia, we haven't got a lot of big purses to play for. So guys are pretty much doing most tournaments on the cheap. It's the cheapest accommodation we can get for the week. Often it's staying with, host families or billets or just friends. And, pulling your own bag around unless you have to, and then it might just be a mate pulling it around for you. So I sort of started going, well, what if I just invest $1,000 to get a caddy for the week, and let's just see what happens. I back myself to play decent, and if they're worth their $1,000, they're going to make that for me in tenfold, hopefully come the weekend when I'm in contention. So that was kind of how I started doing it, and then started being like, well, if that works for a caddy, let's see how it works for a coach, or let's see how it works for a physio. And all of a sudden I'm like, hang on, this is really like, these guys are saving me money here and there. And, it might cost me a little bit more, but I back myself to make that back at the end of the tournaments, because I'm essentially just trying to get old head on young shoulders, and try and learn as much as I can about the game from them, and not sort of go through the thousands of mistakes that young players can make.
And I think that the way you've explained your commitment to staying structured and taking a break when you locked up your card at the French Open, as you mentioned, has shown that all these things are paying off. But one of the things I wanted to touch on, and you talk about Adrian Rietveld in Europe and Sam Day, and the reason I mentioned Carnoustie is because you went there and your clubs didn't make it, right? And wasn't there a story about how you were very particular, that you went even as far to get the same golf ball tee pouch in the golf bag that you wanted to be the same, and to get the clubs? And you've got a major here, your golf clubs haven't shown up, and then the boys were telling me that you practiced rounds with Tiger Woods that same week because you wanted to do it. You didn't want to let the fact that your clubs hadn't turned up. So explain to us a little bit about that, because you've had some success around changing clubs and winning tournaments, and success around clubs and big events.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I was pretty fortunate. Like, obviously you speak about Sam and Adrian out there in Europe, like those guys know their stuff. And I mean, what pretty much the stuff, I had a putter that was basically impossible to find. That was it. That was probably the only thing I was concerned about. The rest of it, like, Sam can basically build it exactly the same and I wouldn't know the difference. So as far as like irons and wedges, like, they were spot on. I had no issue with them. The driver shaft that I played at the time was I think it was a Speeder 757 that they'd stopped making it. And I had maybe 3 or 4 spares of that shaft all in the bag that got lost. Yeah. So we had to go and then find a new driver shaft that week. So that was a bit of a testing process too. And then the putter was just kind of a guess. It was a close. I play a face balance putter, so it was just the closest we could get to that. Which ended up being a putter that I used for quite a long time. So we did sort of strike out pretty well with what we used that week. But I was pretty confident in the equipment that was being made. I genuinely think Sam Day is one of the best builders of clubs that you'll find. So if he's built anything that I'm playing, like, I've got no concerns about whether it's right or wrong.
Interesting. And then talk to us about the practice round with Tiger.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. I mean, the kind of backstory to it was, obviously there's tee sheets every day with where you just go in and sign yourself up to when you want to play. So you can play You can sign up to play 18 holes or 9 holes off the first or the 10th. And I'd spoken to enough guys before, and everyone sort of recommended try and play with some guys that are obviously quite experienced and essentially the best players in the world, because you're going to learn stuff.
Yeah.
So I think Sunday I might have, I came in and tried to put my name down with like DJ and Brooks, and there was one spot left in the group, and I came back an hour later and they'd moved out of that slot because they might have found someone else to play. So yeah, missed that group. And then the next day I put my name down to play with Rory, and same thing, moved out of that slot. Obviously found someone else had lined up to play with him. So yeah, didn't get to play there. So anyway, I come in Tuesday and I just go and have a look at the tee sheet. I'm like, I'll see who there is to play with. And here's Tiger off the first on his own with at 1:30 maybe. And I'm like, what does it matter? I've just been blown off by these two guys. Like, I'll get blown off by Tiger. Who cares? So I put my name down, and then we're on the putting green, and Dom goes to me, maybe you should go over and just say something to him, because he was putting at the same time. Just go and ask him, ask if it's all right if we play together. So yeah, just went over. Hey Tiger, like I've just been blown off by these guys the last 2 days. So if you want to go play on your own, like that's cool with me, and no problem. But I'd love to play with you if we could. So yeah, he goes, yeah, no problem. I'll see you there at 1:30. So yeah, he was like 20 minutes late to the tee, and I'm like, I'll wait 3 hours for this guy. Like, I don't care.
Yeah.
And yeah, just 9 holes with him. I mean, obviously one of the best iron players in the world. Everyone pretty much knows that. And seeing it up close and personal, it was super impressive. And yeah, Dom and I were sort of chatting on the way around, like, this guy's back. Like, this was because he hadn't played well in a major up until this point. I think he'd run like maybe second at the Houston Open or somewhere like that. But he'd struggled at Augusta. He'd struggled. Shinnecock, he missed the cut. So he hadn't really played, like after his injuries, he hadn't really played well up until this point in the majors. And we're going like, this guy's back. Like, if you're a betting man, you'd be probably putting some money on him this week. And yeah, what do you know? He comes out, shoots 66 on Saturday, gets himself right in contention, and back 9 Sunday, he's leading it. So that, like, it was awesome to see. I mean, he didn't win, but obviously awesome to see him in pretty much the best sort of state his game will be in a practice round for 9 holes.
And was there anything that jumped out? You mentioned you played a bit with Jason Day in tournament conditions, you played with Tiger in practice. Is there anything that stands out that us lesser mortals can take from it, that you've taken from it, that might help us?
I guess the easiest way to explain with Tiger was the relationship from the ball flight to the golf swing that he put on it with an iron was phenomenal. Like, you didn't have to look at where the ball went to sort of see what kind of shot he was trying to hit. And it sounds so basic, and it was real. Like, if you had have said that to me before then, I wouldn't have understood it. But just, yeah, being able to watch the ball come off the club and just the relationship between the two was something I'd never really seen before. And obviously the fact that he didn't miss the middle of the club face. The other thing I noticed with him was, which obviously everyone probably knows as well, like, we walked off the first tee and it is a circus out there. There is it's like 8 deep both sides of the ropes. So there's so many people yelling out everything at him. And I was kind of just in front of him. I turned around just to chat to him about something. And I actually kind of almost had to wake him out of this trance that he was in, because he was just head down, focused, wasn't listening. And I had to be like, Tiger, I nearly had to shake him on the shoulder, like, hey, it's me, can I talk to you? And it was in a practice round. And I was super impressed, because, I mean, I'm walking down the second and I said to Joey, like, are you guys dealing with this every week? Like, every week is there galleries that are ridiculous out here. Just the mental focus was something beyond anything I'd ever seen anyway, which we obviously all know about, that mentally there's not many that are going to be better than Tiger. So that was just phenomenal to see up close. With Jason, same thing, like, iron play was really impressive. I'm trying to think back. It was a few years ago now. I remember like
You talk about like, and sorry to interrupt, but Jason touched on it with interviews that I've done with him, and it's on the perfect point now for me to bring it up. Mental fortitude in Tiger Woods. I want to talk, and if the Jason thing comes to you, by all means throw it in there. But when you dropped in earlier that you finished second in Portugal to lock up your card when you had limited starts, what people don't know is that you are in contention to win that. And you win the ball, from what I remember, into a water hazard and went on and finished second, like you mentioned, card wrapped up, Lucas Herbert moves on. Then you win in Dubai, and in the final hole of the playoff, you can correct me, but you went into a water hazard, same deal, and you got up and down. Now, where I'm connecting all this together is you have a mental coach, Jamie Glazier, that works with you, and I've been following a lot of those conversations. I was fortunate to have dinner with your team at the PGA and be around how tight-knit that team was, that you say you invest into, and it's why you become the player you become. But mentally, those two things that I've called out, and those two shots I've called out, how you recovered from them, was there anything from conversations? Because I know Jason's a big mental guy. I know Tiger's a big mental guy. Was there anything from them, obviously the help from your psychologist, that helped you loop all this together? Is it irony that that happens to you and then you go on and win after what happens with the drama of securing your card? How do you recall on those things? Is there anything in there that connects all that together?
To be honest, like the one in Portugal when I got my card, I would have almost, like, I wish I could go back and play that final round knowing what I know now from a mental aspect. I was just not ready to be 2 shots clear going into the final round of a tournament. And, you know, it was I just feel like there was a lot of mental mistakes I made that day. Whereas I think Dubai was probably a correction of a lot of that kind of stuff. It's hard to explain, but I don't know that I necessarily picked it up from Tiger or from Jace, but I know I watched a lot of final round replays, and just even seeing that guys don't hit perfect shots every single time throughout a final round when they go and win, it helps you a lot, because then you realize that, okay, I don't have to go and play perfect on Sunday to win. Like, yeah, I got to play good, and I got to hit some good shots when I need to hit them. And obviously, if you look at Dubai, the wedge shot after I hit it in the water to get it up and down to keep the playoff going, like, that's when I needed to do it. But just because I hit that second shot in the water doesn't mean I butchered the whole thing. And even that final round, there was poor shots that I hit through the day, and that didn't stop me from going on and winning. And I think that was one of the biggest things that I learned between finishing second in Portugal and winning in Dubai, was that I don't have to play so perfectly in that last round, and I can hit poor shots, and that's not the end of the world. And I think when you get into those situations and you've never been into them, you want to control them so much. You feel so anxious because you can't control how you're going to play and how your nerves play out and that kind of thing. But you can never be in control. Like, golf's the least controlling sport ever. You're always going to hit bad shots. So just kind of letting go a little bit, accepting that, like, it's not the end of the world if we don't win. Like, yeah, I want to win pretty bad, but I'm still going to be fine if I don't. A lot of these sort of little things that can help you out, then yeah, it allows you to go out there and play with a bit more freedom, and then, you know, you can hit one in the water in the playoff hole and still get it up and down, keep the playoff going, and win it on the next hole.
And then that week in Dubai, you changed golf ball on the Tuesday, I think. Like, how did that come about? And then what did you have to do? Because people ask me all the time, how do I change golf ball? What's the process? What did you have to do to have the trust in it, to know under the gun? Because Dubai can get pretty windy. What did you have to do to know, right, okay, I'm going to hit these shots in this pressure situation. I know this ball's going to react this way. Like, what was the process to get from changing golf ball to winning tournament? Yeah,
so I think it had been playing on my mind for a little while. So I've always been a really high spinner of the golf ball through the bag. But since probably starting on tour, like, obviously with flags tucked tighter, with greens more firm, I just wanted that little bit extra spin around the greens, and with some wedge shots to be able to sort of bring it back a little bit when I need to, or really stop it on a dime when you have to around those short-sighted shots on the green. But obviously it's a give and take. If you want that spin, then you've got to deal with it in the rest of the bag. So I tried to switch balls before, it just didn't quite work. And I'd always played that, the P730 iron, the blade, and it was good, loved it. And then obviously the TW iron gets released. And I pestered Sam Day forever about this iron because I wanted to try it. So eventually I get a set. I go home and I test them. And for a start, we sort of tested them. And Dom's like, yeah, they're pretty much the same. You can throw them straight in. So I played them for one tournament, played the Oz PGA with them. And I'd noticed a couple of times, like, I've got this kind of shot that I just fly it down a little bit when it gets windy. So, I don't do a lot to it. Just flights it down, takes the spin out of it. I remember hitting a couple of these shots into the wind, and I was like, man, that's got through the wind really well. Like, have I just gotten better at that shot? And then I started thinking these irons are not spinning as much. So then I get to Abu Dhabi, and I basically started getting mechanical faults within my swing from trying to spin the ball because I felt like short-sighted flags. I couldn't get enough spin on the ball to stop it. And obviously Dom's kind of thinking it's, there's something technical going on. And I'm sort of going, hang on, I don't reckon I'm spinning the ball enough. I want to have a look at this, whether it be lies and lofts or whether it be the golf ball. I want to have a good look at this. So yeah, I turned up in Dubai, said to Sam, like, all right, this is what I'm thinking. How can you help me out? I wanted Adrian's opinion as well, because I think Adrian's very good with this kind of stuff. So yeah, we pretty much it started off as an 8-iron. We basically just had 2 buckets of balls, like one with the TB5, one with the TB5X, which was what I was playing. Hitting both flights, and it was like, both of the flights looked very similar, but you looked at the TrackMan numbers and the spin was matching up so much better with the TB5. We sort of talked about it. I was like, okay, how much is this going to affect through the rest of the bag? We sort of hit a few, obviously got Adrian's opinion on a lot of it. Okay, it's going to be pretty similar. But then the boys had a big brown box. Like you're going to know the one I'm talking about, but it would be like a 2 foot by 2 foot sort of brown box, just full of TP5s. I don't know why they had them that week, but they were practice balls. And they gave it to me. They go, here you go, here's Wednesday's homework pretty much. So Wednesday went through the whole bag and just hit every club. Okay, yep, that's going the same distance. And then like all the variations of those clubs. So like if I'm hitting a fade or I'm hitting a draw, a lot of that kind of stuff, just to see, okay, yep, it's pretty much matching up as we need it to. And it's just spinning that touch more, which is going to be perfect. Dubai worked out great because the greens were rock hard. So that little bit of spin was perfect. And then that allowed me to have that little bit more spin around the green. So those short-sighted shots, you could just stop them a little bit quicker. But then it was a little bit of like, I got out in the golf course and all of a sudden the ball's kind of launching a little different from what I'm used to. So there was still a little bit of getting used to it even during the tournament. And we were lucky it didn't get really windy until Sunday. And it behaved really well in the wind too. I got kind of lucky there because I really hadn't done the testing in the wind. So it behaved really well on Sunday when it got windy, and it did everything I needed it to do. So, I mean, yeah, that ball was a game changer for me.
And then Spider X Putter. I don't know if you've got your one near there, but you were one of the first advocates to talk to us because you get a lot of products early, and you were one of the first people to talk to us about this sole. You've got the Tour sole on there as well, which has a slightly abrasive texture to it. The first one you got didn't have that, and you were giving the feedback that we obviously saw as well over here in the States about it would slip a little bit on Bermuda or shiny greens. What was your input on that? And it must feel pretty good to know that A, you pick it up first with everyone, and B, a change is made by a company to cater that for the likes of yourself so you can go on and become the player you're becoming.
Yeah, it was pretty funny. I mean, I noticed it in Dubai last year. I was sort of trying to, especially like a putt that would be left to right, so essentially the green's falling away from you as you're standing. You'd be trying to put the putter down, and it would keep sliding out from behind the ball, and you were eventually like you pretty much had to hover the putter, which is not what you really want to do when you're not used to doing that. So yeah, we went and got some like double-sided tape and put some I think we just literally put sand on it to try and make it stick and not sort of slide off. And I think we mentioned it to you guys, and around this time, like, you're kind of going, you're an idiot. Like, just go and use it. You know, what do you think? What do you think you are, Bryson? And like all the just kind of paying us out. And then all of a sudden, it's kind of good to see other guys are finding it as well. And you're sort of coming back on, oh yeah, you might have been right there. So now I feel like any input I've got for you has actually got some sort of validity to it. And you're not going like, you're an idiot, just piss off.
So, I mean, what's the plans then for when we get back? What are the future goals? Obviously, I guess majors must be in there. You can get in and play and get out. What's the schedule looking like? What are you thinking? I mean, it's too early maybe to comment on that, but what's 2021 and 22, like, what's the future? How do you plan to get back this momentum that you've built?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's going to be the end of the world, given that all the other players in the same boat. Like, all the other players are going to have 6 months off or 5 months off or however long this period of time is. So it's not like I've had an injury and had to get out of the game, and everyone else is still kind of going and getting better, and I'm stuck. Everyone else is in the same boat. So that's kind of my concerns, are not really getting going again. I mean, it's going to take 1 or 2 tournaments to shake the rust, but that's going to be everyone as well. It's going to be a crazy second half of the year. That, you know, you're trying to fit 9 months worth of schedule into 4 months. So we're gonna play a lot. There's not going to be a hell of a lot of off weeks, and you know, it's going to be a tough job managing the fatigue levels and just even the burnout as well. I mean, I've pretty much not touched the clubs since we've been into isolation, because I'm concerned that I don't want to even get close to a burnout level for the fact that we're going to have to play so much of the second half of the year. You want to come back going like, oh, I can't wait to go and play. Beyond that, I mean, I'm obviously pretty fortunate with the win that exempts me through the end of 22. So that gives me a sort of a chance to go and try and play a little bit in the States if I can get over there. Obviously, world ranking 64. It's kind of right on the edge of getting into a few of those events, and the majors, the WGCs, those sort of events, and that's where you want to be. That's where you want to be playing. Your golf, that's where the best players in the world are. It's going to give me the best chance to obviously get myself up those world rankings and get a regular fixture in the US Tour, but also learn from those guys and try and be the best player I can. So that's definitely where I want to be. I think last time I tried to make things happen too quickly, and I wanted things to happen 5 minutes ago. This time I'm just happy. I'm just going to try and keep getting better and try and keep playing well in the next tournament, and that's kind of all I can take care of. And if I keep doing that, then the US Tour will be there for me when the time's right, when everything falls into place, and then hopefully we can try and play a little bit of the European Tour and the US Tour schedule.
With that said, and with some of these young guns coming through, or college kids who want to be in your position and want to win such big tournaments, and they hear you say that patience breaks through and is the key. They hear you talk about investing in your team. They hear you talk about investing in your equipment. What key advice, is there anything else you would give to any youngsters who perhaps halfway through a college season or want to emulate what you are doing so well? I mean, 64th in the world now top 50 is spitting distance away, for want of a better phrase, but it is. And that's a realistic conversation that we're going to have, and it changes everything as a pro golfer. But what would you say to people? Because trying to be patient as a youngster, trying to do what you've done, and I think you've even experienced it, it's hard to do. What would be the advice?
Well, I think golf's a lot different to most other sports. I mean, like if you're in gymnastics or a sport like that, once you're 17, you're too old for the sport. So those kind of guys guys and girls have to make things happen really quick. Golf, we can play till we're 60. So there's no, whether you play on the US Tour at 22, 26 or 30, it doesn't matter. You're still going to get, I mean, even if you get on there at 30, you're still going to get 10 good years out there, minimum. If your body holds up and, you look after yourself properly, you're going to get 10 good years out there. So there's just no reason to get really stressed out and really anxious and and try and make things happen quicker than they need to. I think golf's just one of those sports you kind of just have to do what you can do and let everything fall into place. There's weeks when you can play phenomenal golf and just get beaten by someone. I just was watching the 2016 Open Championship replay the other night, and Henrik wins it at 20 under, and Phil runs second, and Phil was 11 shots in front of third place. And like, how pissed would you be in a major championship? You beat the next guy by, if Henrik doesn't turn up, Phil wins an Open Championship by 11 shots.
Yeah.
Like, what do you do? There's nothing you can do about that. And then there's times where, maybe like a Paul Laurie at the Open Championship in 99, where plays a really solid week and, finishes the tournament and thinks, oh yeah, top 5 finish. That's, it's pretty good. All of a sudden, our mate John Vanderveld comes through and makes a triple up the last, gets him into a playoff, and all of a sudden he's got the trophy in his hand. That's just the way golf works. Some weeks, you don't quite have it and you win, and some weeks you're playing the best you'll ever play and you don't get it done. So you just can't force things to happen. It's just, you've got to let it happen when it happens. You're going to have bad weeks. It's just the way it works. So yeah, I guess patience, and then but you also then, you want to give yourself the most chance to play well. So don't use patience as a cop out. If you can look yourself in the eye Sunday night and go like, there's nothing I would have done differently this week to give myself a chance to play well, that's all you can do. If that means tied 50th that week, well, that's just the best you're going to do that week. But I know, like, personally, that's probably why I invest in my team and everything like that the most, is like, I don't want to get to 45 and go like, I could have made a career out of this if I was willing to roll the dice a bit at times, and I just didn't want to do it. I was too worried about that $2,000 in my bank account and didn't want to lose that. Whereas, if I'm happy to go and work at McDonald's and flip burgers to make that $2,000 if it backfires. Because I truly believe that if I do invest that money, or, invest time in things, that it's going to pay off for me. So yeah, if you can look at yourself every week, every day, and go like, there's nothing I would have done differently about that, well, that's all you can do, and that's all anyone expects from you as well.
I think we're a long way from you flipping burgers now. I think that train's left the station. You should be fine on that. I got one last question for you, and I've been thinking about how to word this, because I need to get it right and get the right answer from you, because it's something I'm impressed by and want to know. TaylorMade down in Australia was represented for the longest time through Jason Day. Jason Day moves to the States, so then we have this Pacific area that we're not covered by. We get Marcus Fraser, who was a long-time staff player for us out of Australia for a long time. But our connection down there, our players down there, we never had that many guys. It was a hotbed through the Aussie tour that we never inherently had. Then you come along and play TaylorMade, and we get you, and you become a TaylorMade, a loyalist, represent us so well, uber confident, do your own thing, always have, invest in your team, everything you've said. What made you decide early on, I want to be with TaylorMade, I want to be in this crew here and do my thing that's so separate to what the majority do down there in Asia Pacific? What made you stick to that, and what made you stand out and go, these are the clubs I want to play, even though I'm here right now, but this is where I want to be? What was it that got you to that point?
Yeah, it's a good question. I don't know whether I'm allowed to mention other brands here, and I'll refrain from that. But yeah, Australia's dominated pretty heavily. The market's dominated pretty heavily by Titleist, and a lot of the guys down here that play on the Aussie tour, it's pretty common that you play their stuff. I think it's the product support down here is, every tournament you turn up and there's guys there representing them with balls and gloves, and it's really easy for them. As far as getting clubs go, they can get it out in 2-3 days, whereas most other companies, you're gonna be waiting a couple of weeks to get stuff. So I think that tends to be the main reason for why guys stay there. I was a Titleist player as an amateur, and then the 2014 US trip that I did. So I played the Western Amateur and the US Amateur. and that was when TaylorMade had just released the SLDR driver. And I remember everyone pretty much just peppering Matt Blackie for equipment, because he turned up to one of the tournaments and just had some stuff to look after the guys that you were looking after as amateurs, and ended up basically giving it out to all the Aussie guys because we didn't have any access to it in Australia. And I missed the boat, and I saw Matt at the US Amateur and said, "Hey, look, I know everyone's been getting some stuff. I don't want to. I'm not here to club collect sort of thing. Like, but I'd really like to try the driver." So Blackie got me in at the Kingdom, and I got fitted there. And yeah, pretty like the driver 3-wood combo I had. We went and compared it to the SLDR, and it was like 20 and 25 yards difference in carry. And I just never been exposed to other product. I thought I was playing the best that was out there. And all of a sudden I'm like, what have I been using? So that got me on the wood straight away. And then, I mean, as I turned pro, it was kind of like, well, irons are irons. Like, they're all pretty similar. If you're playing a blade, you're pretty much going to be, it's going to be the same thing across the brands. The wedges were similar. It took me a while to get used to the wedges and just get the right lob wedge, especially. Obviously, with everything we've spoken about, it's hard to get that sort of stuff right. And then I think at the time, you guys weren't really what you are now when that was all going on. It was a lot different, and we had different reps out there in the Australian and European events that I was playing. But I got super lucky in that you guys have done such a good job with creating Team TaylorMade, and essentially, you've worked out that the best way to get the best players is make the best equipment. There's nothing that's custom made or is, printed, at least made by another company and reprinted with TaylorMade sort of stickers on it. Like, everything that the guys are playing that are on the billboards and the posters for TaylorMade, it's straight out of the factory, and it's the same as what you're going to buy off the shelf. And I think that is the biggest testament to TaylorMade, is that they make genuinely really good product, and the stuff that maybe wasn't their forte back 5 years ago is now some of the best stuff in the market. I mean, I think we were leading the putter count on tour last year, which is an area that you look after, and that's unheard of given the other products that are on the market are so popular. Obviously, the wedges have developed a mile, and I think getting Tiger on board, he's been involved in a lot of the R&D, which you can see, it's just phenomenal. You can see that guy's had input into it, and it's awesome stuff. And now, I'm playing 14 clubs in a ball, and not because I have to with a contract, because it is the best stuff for me. And I don't even bother testing anything else, because I'm like, I know this stuff's the best for me. So it was a little bit it was a little bit lucky at the time. I really liked the wood, so it was like, well, this is going to be easy to make it fit. And then I got really lucky with you guys developing your brand tenfold from where it was. So, now it's an easy fit. It's not even a question of what clubs I'm playing for the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years. As long as you guys will keep having me, I'll keep staying around.
No, for sure. I mean, I'd like to think that you've become part of the squad. You're always someone that we're thinking of. We're always sending new product to you early. And even though you are down there, which is obviously a long way away from the head offices, you're always at the forefront of our mind, much to the credit to Adrian Reitveld, Sam, and everyone else involved. And look, we're only going to see more of you as you break into that top 50. So, mate, thank you so much for your time. There's so much awesome sound bites in there about trying to get on a journey. I mean, it's inspirational. So I really appreciate you taking the time to talk to us, and thanks again, mate.
Thanks, Trotty. Honoured to be on of Trotty's tour talks.
I look forward to having many more with you. Next one we're going to do on the truck at a PGA Tour event when you're well on your way to getting your car.
As long as we've got the Pew Dog on there, I'm in.
Top man. Thanks, mate. Really appreciate it.
No worries. Thanks, Trotty.
Take care.